everybody. How y'all doing today? I am going to let everybody know in Flick that I am live with a free video. And then hopefully someone will post the link. Alrighty, here we go. Last thing I got to type, and then we will get going because we have a few lineups out, and I want to talk about how those lineup changes affect how I like those stacks and those pitchers. All right. I got to figure out how to get that onto my phone easier next time. All right. So I will be doing questions. So if I'm in the middle of talking about baseball, or a lineup comes out or what have you, don't let that stop you. I am just going to keep finishing that up, and then I will answer any and all questions. And like I said, I'm going to prioritize that. So I'm going to make sure to do that. So I am going to start with the main slate because that's the way it works. So right now we have the Marlins and the Phillies, and both of these lineups have been confirmed. The Marlins is exactly what I had projected: Granderson, Prado, Anderson, Walker, Castro, Alfaro, Rojas, and Lewis Brinson, with Caleb Smith pitching in the 9-hole. That is a great lineup for Nola because it's the Marlins. I see the 9,100. I see the third in the Cy Young voting last year, and I know that he's looked terrible, to put it honestly, but I also know that he's got a ton of talent. How's it going, Raj? He's got a ton of talent, and the Marlins is as good a get-right spot as you are possibly going to find. So if there is an ace and he is going against the Marlins and he has looked poorly, and that is certainly possible. I mean, we've seen it happen plenty of times before. I think that you have to take the chance on him when the field may not, because they are going to be overly hesitant. So as of right now, he is projected to be the most highly owned player, which makes sense. But even that might be too low, the 50%, given, again, how cheap he is relative to everyone else and how fantastic this matchup is. On another day, he would be, if he had looked good going into this matchup, he would be 60-70%, and he would probably be over 10K. The Marlins are that bad. So while I understand pivoting off of him, considering that he is projected to be the most expensive, I definitely have no problem taking him here with the field and just finding ways to separate yourself otherwise. Second most popular pitcher on the slate is Caleb Smith. We have basically the same Phillies lineup, except Aaron Alther is starting instead of Roman Quinn, which is a positive for Caleb Smith. Aaron Alther is a pretty bad hitter. So Caleb Smith, I talked about, he has started out the year absolutely on fire. How's it going, Anti-Crime Dog? He has started off the year absolutely on fire. There is no justification whatsoever to him not being above 9,000. He has pitched better than most people in baseball. So I think it's totally unreasonable not to be over the field on Caleb Smith tonight if you're doing mass multi-entry, and if you're doing a single entry, locking him in, because 7,300 is just way too low for someone who's been averaging over 20 DKP per start. How's it going, everybody? How y'all doing today? It is just ludicrous. I know this is a dangerous Phillies team, and I think that if you are playing game theory, it would make sense, especially if you're doing MME, to get yourself some Philly stacks. No pitcher is immune from a blow up. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Ibanabo. I absolutely agree. I think JD and Trout with the Red Sox stack are the way to go. It's just too obvious. But we're going to get there. I'm definitely going to try to get through these if you guys aren't going to ask questions, but I have no problem doing the analysis based on the lineups that we have already. So again, I think that given how popular Caleb Smith is, it is certainly reasonable to take some Philly stacks if you're doing MME, if you're doing more than a couple of lineups. There's a chance Caleb Smith doesn't do well, even though he did well against the Phillies the last time he pitched a couple weeks ago. But honestly, the kid's just really good, and he's underrated and underpriced because he is on the Marlins, and that just isn't fair. How's it going, everybody? Thank you for joining me here. So again, Caleb Smith has looked fantastic. The stats and the advanced stats back that up. The only people that are underpricing him here are DraftKings. Even on FanDuel, he's 8,200, which is completely fair. I would still rather go with a Nola at 8,700. 500 is not that much of a difference for Enola going against the Marlins. But if we're talking DraftKings, again, 7,300 for a pitcher of Smith's caliber who's being underrated, even though he is owned quite highly. I just can't get off of him. I have no problem on DraftKings because the win is overrated, doing a Nola and Smith 1-2. That would be funny. I don't know. Is he? He could be. Certainly possible. I certainly think that you can start playing Nola and Smith together, given the fact that the win is only 4 points on DraftKings, and you can make that up with, a strikeout. And Caleb Smith is certainly good at doing that. So the next game that already has the lineups is Detroit at Boston. Detroit is rolling out Candelario, Castellanos, Miggy, Goodrum, Dixon, Beckham, Harrison in the 7-hole. Got demoted pretty hard from earlier in the season when he led off. John Hicks is catching, and Jacoby Jones, as always, is batting 9th with Jordan Zimmer. I think that Porcello is overrated because of the team that he's on. I would project him to be, I can look at what I have. As of right now, I don't have Gallo projected to be in the lineup. They generally don't play him against lefties. If he is in the lineup, though, Gonzalez is one of those lefties that is not better against lefties or righties. So I certainly think that if you are going to play some Rangers, that Gallo is a definitely pinch hit equity. Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely think that Gallo is certainly someone that you can play if he is in the lineup. And if you want to get really crazy and get a lineup or two with him, if you're doing 150, there's a good chance he pinch hits against a bad pitcher. And that's going to be, that's not so bad at all. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Detroit, Boston here. I think that lineup, the Detroit lineup, is definitely not great, but they are definitely not terrible. And I think that Porcello is the third most owned pitcher as of right now, or he's projected to be the third highest owned pitcher right now. And I think that getting some Tigers bats to counter that is a good way of leveraging yourself over the field. I think that you're going to see a lot of Nola Porcello and Porcello Smith lineups today. I think that people on DK, again, overrate the win, and they're hesitant to play two pitchers going against one another. But I think that is a something that you can do on DraftKings, and it'll help to separate you from the field because there are a lot of people who won't do that. And I think, again, with how popular Porcello is projected to be at that price, and the fact that people know that he's not terrible, even though he's not great, I think that there are some Tigers bats that you can take advantage of. My favorite being Nico Goodrum, because Porcello does show normal splits, which means he's going to be weaker against lefties. And as of right now, Goodrum is the only one that I trust as a left-handed batter in that lineup. Since even though Candelario is a switch hitter, he is an extreme right-handed batter, which means he is much, much worse as a lefty, and he'll be batting lefty, which might be a bonus for Porcello. It is. It is actually. It is actually curtains. Those are bath. Those are bath curtains that I hung up behind me in the basement. That's why I have rubber duckies on them. They came out of the thing. I wasn't going to iron them just for that. That is funny though. I just would have more Detroit Tigers bats than Porcello today, especially given how popular Porcello is. If Porcello was going to be unowned, I wouldn't mind. This is one of those where it really is going to come down to the ownership here, right? If Porcello was going to be one of the lowest owned pitchers, I would certainly take a chance on him at 7,800. But given the fact that he's going to be so expensive, it makes more sense to leverage against the field by playing Tigers bats, especially on this small a slate. It makes absolute sense to take bats against the most popular pitchers, unless you are playing them. And if you are playing MME, then make sure you have a lot of the bats against the most popular pitchers, because that is where a ton of the leverage that you see today is going to come from. So Jordan Zimmermann, I would say, is the worst pitcher on the slate. It's close. Nola over Hamill. Hamill? What? Am I missing something? I think you typoed there, so I'm just going to keep talking. I definitely think that Zimmermann is the worst pitcher on the slate. I think that the Red Sox are the best offense in baseball, and when you add those together, that is obviously Bauer. Is Trevor Bauer not pitching? Oh, Garrett Cole, excuse me. Garrett Cole. I looked at the wrong thing. Yeah, Garrett Cole's pitching for Houston, not Hamill. I don't even know who Hamill is. Garrett Cole's pitching. Garrett Cole is awesome. I would say that excluding Price, Garrett Cole is going to be my favorite play of the day. And the Houston lineup just came out. Springer, Altuve, Bregman, Brantley, Correa, Gurriel, Reddick, Chirinos, Kemp. So the only difference from my projected is that Chirinos is batting 8th and Kemp is going to be in the 9-hole instead of White batting there. So let me change that up for everyone. I wish I spent an hour today trying to figure out how to do screen sharing, but I am really bad at technology. I am old enough that this kind of passes me by, and I do my best. I'm doing okay, but I've definitely passed me by. I will definitely get to there, because there aren't going to be all the lineups out yet. So I have plenty of time to talk about Vlad tomorrow, because I think that's a very interesting a question of game theory. Because do you fade someone who's going to be extremely popular, even though you think he's going to be very successful? And I think that it's definitely, I definitely love him, and I'm definitely going to want to play him. But the idea that his floor is still going to be 0, and he's going to be one of the highest owned players on the slate is one that it would make more sense from a game theory perspective to fade him. But that is going to be something that I can talk about more later. I'm just going to, again, talk about the Red Sox quick to finish up here. Red Sox best bats. I mean, I wish I could, say that there's a million different reasons to play them and try to earn the money and get all fancy and technical, but there's absolutely no way you shouldn't be playing the Red Sox. My locks for tonight, Who's Your Daddy? Oh, that's great. That's really funny. That's a lot funnier when you say it out loud. I like that. That is very funny, Who's Your Daddy? I'm going to try to say that more and more often. In terms of pitchers, you have to lock Nola against the Marlins. I know he looks terrible, but that price is just too fantastic. If you are doing GPP and you want to get away from that, let me look at, I think that Tanaka is the lowest owned of the people with the highest upside. And I think that Cole is not being given his just due in terms of ownership. So while I don't mind locking in Nola as who I think is the best play for the price, I think that for the ownership, Cole is like 4th or 5th highest owned today. And this is not an Indians team that is going to do that well, even with Lindor back. And it looks like Ramirez might be heating up with that home run yesterday. But I really like Garrett Cole today at the 10-2. He should be priced significantly higher than that. And then if you're looking for like a cheaper lock, again, I don't know how you don't go with Caleb Smith. He's just so underpriced on DraftKings. There's just no way around that. There is no reason that someone who's been averaging 20 plus DKP against such good offenses is priced as if he, was Sandy Alcantara, or another one of the Marlins starters, or God forbid someone on the Orioles. It just makes no sense. I think that the Marlins team starts at such a low price point on DraftKings template that even a good starter that's doing well because he's on the Marlins is going to be underpriced. The win is 100% overrated, Joker. The win is 100% overrated on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I believe, is it still 12 points for the win? The last I checked, the win was 12 points. That is huge. So I think that you have to change. It's 6 points. Oh, thank God they changed that. It was 12 points when I used to play. That is significantly less important then. Forget about that. Man, that was a long time ago, though. I don't really play FanDuel a lot. I like the two pitchers. I like the fact that if your one pitcher explodes, you still have another pitcher who could do well and enough bats to make up for it. Whereas on FanDuel, if that one dude explodes, you're absolutely done for it. Good luck. I play DK almost exclusively. Target Boston bats then. Boston they're going to be the highest owned stack, but there's nothing even close to them tonight. Let's be frank. When you have one of the worst pitchers in Jordan Zimmerman, who gives up a ton of home runs going against the Boston Red Sox, you got to play the Red Sox. That's it. There's no reason to fade Boston today. There's no reason to be cute tonight. It's just Boston is almost at 6 runs. You have to play them. There's just no way around it. What I would suggest you do, and I'm going to get to that right now. If you're looking at game theory, what you can do with Boston that will separate you is most people, when they stack, exclusively do like a 1 through 5. You'll find that if you go through a lot of the lineups in these tournaments, a lot of people are doing the straight 1 through 5. I think that by wrapping it around, or by not being afraid to pick and choose who you pick on Boston, you could do yourself more favors. So there's nothing wrong with doing, a Benintendi Betts, Moreland Martinez Bogarts. I think that those are fine plays. But I think that, on FanDuel, for example, Jackie Bradley at 2,100 is absolutely ridiculous. You can get Jackie Bradley in that lineup at 2,100. You're going to do it because he can still get on base. There was a great article today that I read about how Jackie Bradley Jr. is emblematic of the difficulty in changing your swing, and how that like homer or nothing philosophy can help people or can hurt them as well. And the gist of the article was that, and I wish I remember where I read it. I read so many articles. I apologize. Bradley has tried to change his swing to more of an uppercut to capitalize. Excuse me. And it has not gone well for him, but he is going to try to work his way back. Otherwise, and the wraparounds are super cheap. So I think that the best thing that you can do is to play the Red Sox stack, but to not play the most popular of the Red Sox. So I'm going to look at RG right now because I pay for RG, and I want to know what they say specifically about only the Red Sox. So right now we have Sandy Leon at 8%, and he's batting 9. That's great. You can get him for 3,100. he can definitely, he's not going to wow you. He's not going to win the MVP this year. He's not going to hit you 50 home runs like JD Martinez might. But Sandy Leon is still in this lineup, and he's still going to get a chance to hit against a bad pitcher with almost certainly people on base. You have Mitch Moreland, who is supposed to be the third least owned player on the Red Sox, and he's batting number 3. So even just by not taking the Betts Martinez, you are separating yourself from the field. Yeah, the sometimes the ownership is very, very surprising. Well, Zimmerman doesn't show any kind of splits, so you can attack him however you want. It's not like lefties have a huge advantage over righties, which again is another reason that you can take Sandy Leon. But yeah, Moreland for that price, batting third, is supposed to be the third least owned Red Sox. That's a way to separate yourself from the field. You know, Betts and Martinez are the obvious chalk because they're obviously the best plays. And with Zimmerman's problem in giving up home runs, they're the best primed to do it. I also think that Devers and Bogarts, given the positional scarcity at third base and shortstop, are going to be really highly owned. So you can separate yourself by taking Mike Chavez at third base. Again, who's going to be one of the least owned players, and he's not terrible. So again, there are ways of playing a chalky stack in a way that is not chalky, that will separate yourself. So if you do have, 3 of these Red Sox guys that are at like 12, it is Sprite Zero. It is one of my favorites as well. I had a heart thing. I am a mess. For everyone who hasn't followed me, I'm disabled with a back disability. I can't walk. I have like Crohn's and I have a heart condition, so I can't have caffeine at all. So water kind of makes me nauseous sometimes, which is like a weird thing. So I have like ginger ale and Sprite Zero ready to go pretty much all the time. So yeah, I think Moreland, Leon, and Chavez are going to be 3 of the sneakiest plays. So if you are playing Boston, you can even do like a Betts Martinez, Chavez, Leon, Moreland, and you are still going to separate yourself from a large majority of the field. Because as of right now, we have Devers projected to be the 3rd highest owned player on the Red Sox and one of the highest owned players on the slate. So again, if you are doing GPP and you are doing single entry and you want to separate yourself from the field while still taking the best team, there are certainly ways to do that. It is going to cost you money in the long run. Sprite Zero with the cranberry is delicious, but they don't have it here. Only in the cans. I would love it. Oh, I would love it. I love you too. Much love to everyone. I really do appreciate. Oh, JC, you're the one that sent me that wonderful message. I have been meaning to get back to you, but today has been kind of crazy. I was going to get back to you after everything locked, but I did read that. You are in my thoughts and my prayers, my friend. Your story is harrowing, and I am rooting for you. So is everyone in Robe Nation. I'm not going to make anything public because it is private and personal. Just know that I got your back. We all got your back. We are all here for you. If you ever need anything, if you ever need to talk, seek me or anybody else out. Get on Flick. Do whatever you need to do. We are here for you, brother. 100%, no matter what. All right? 100%. Thank you for joining me in here. I really appreciate it. I really do. Again, that story was one of those that sent chills down my spine. I'm one of those people that feels too strongly for other people, to my detriment, and that definitely got to me. That definitely got to me. So, I got you, brother. I got you. Anyway, back to the task at hand, which is baseball. With this, I think that if you are fading the best play because they are the most popular, you are hurting yourself in the long run. I think that there are ways to play the best plays, even if they are chalky, and still differentiate yourself enough from the field. And you could do that with doing different stacks. For example, I really like doing 4-3-1s or 5-2-1s, whereas a lot of people lock in the 5-3 or the 4-4, which makes sense. You want to maximize the exposure you have to any lineup. That's how you maximize your points. That one study that I've seen showed that the best you can get is 6, which means Yahoo is the best. So the more players you can get from one team in general, the better it is for you in terms of being able to rack up points, which is exactly what you're trying to do with a stack. So 5-2-1 is a really sneaky way. I feel like a lot more people that I've seen over the last couple of years, if they do one-offs, do a 4-3-1 because they don't like having like the smaller two-person stack. And I think that is a problem. So what I would do today, and I hate to give away basically the entirety of my strategy. I am single entering today. I have a lineup that I really explain. Hoosier, are you asking me to explain what I mean by like 5-2-1, 4-3-1? What I mean by that is the amount of people per stack. So, for example, let's say today my favorite 2 stacks are, let's see, what would they be? Let's see. Let me get my lineup sheet here. Not playing Cleveland, Houston. I hate Trevor Cahill. So let's say my favorite 2 stacks today are Yankees and the Red Sox, right? So the Red Sox are by far my favorite stack. So when I am inputting this on DraftKings, this is not a free analysis daily. This is normally a paid members analysis, but I try to do a free one every once in a while. There will be periodic free analyses that I will do, especially on Thursdays. I would love to do this every Thursday for free at 4 p.m. But most of the time, this is one of the things that paid people pay for. So thank you very much. But to get back to the stacks question. So the Red Sox stack is going to be my favorite stack. So I want them to be the full stack or the main stack. If you read my article, I delineate between full and mini. So my full stack is going to be the team that I have the most players from. The mini stack is going to be the smaller one. So today, what I plan on doing is having a full stack of 5 Red Sox, and then a mini stack of 2 Yankees, and then a one-off, which is a 5-2-1. You could also get rid of that one-off and play 3 Yankees. Then you'd have the 5-3, which is, I would say, the most prevalent stack. You can cut one from the Red Sox and add one to the Yankees because you have 8 spots to fill and go with a 4-4, which is another great way of playing it. I like to do that more when there are 2 teams that I like equally, or there are more than that. So a couple of days ago, when Anibal Sanchez, that might have been yesterday, they all fade together. When Anibal Sanchez was pitching in Coors, there were 4 or 5 teams that I really, really liked. So I did more of 4-4 stacks and 4-3-1 stacks. 4-2-2, I don't mind. I think that if you do 4-2-2, you should make sure that the players are close enough to each other that they could benefit. So, don't take like a number 2 and then like a number 6 or a number 7, because the odds are a lot less that they are going to be able to have an additive effect on each other's points. So if it was like a 2-3 or even like a 2-4, I would not have a problem with that. You can go 2-5 if you want to get really clever with it, but excuse me, anything beyond that, I wouldn't do for that kind of 2-2. I think if you are doing 5-2-1 as well, you want to try to make sure that those 2 are going to be close to each other. But basically, that's what I mean when I talk about the different types of stacks. I don't mind 2 batters in between. You'd be surprised. You'd be really surprised. You can take a Benintendi and a Martinez today. That's 2 batters in between. There's nothing wrong with doing that. You can take a LeMahieu and a Gary Sanchez. today. That's 2 players in between. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think if anything, a lot of people are going to have the qualms that you have with it, which again is why I think on smaller slates like this, you can take a batter against a pitcher that you're playing. If you look at optimizers like Fantasy Cruncher, for example, which I love and I use all the time. It's expensive, but if you ever enter more than one lineup, it is 100% worth it. I absolutely love it, and I'm not getting paid by them or anything. It's just they're just fucking fantastic. So what you have, if you look at the advanced setup in Fantasy Cruncher, is it's automatically set so that you will get 0 batters against a pitcher that is going to be put into your lineup. And excuse me. And I think that on larger slates, if you're playing, a 15 gamer, that would make a lot of sense. But on anything from like 2 to 5 games, you're doing yourself a disservice. I think there is every possibility that, Aaron Nola has a fantastic game and, Neil Walker gets 2 or 3 hits, at that price. I think it's possible Caleb Smith has a fantastic game, and Real Muto gets a home run, or Rhys Hoskins keeps being hot, even though he's not getting thrown at by the Marlins, so he may not do as well. I think that it's possible on smaller slates to get someone in a good spot. You know what? Let me take this, because this is the perfect example. I talked a lot about absolutely, skaters against your goalie, anything like that makes perfect sense on smaller slates, because the amount of people that can provide points is so limited and you don't want to rule anything like that out, because it really just hamstrings you. I have not, but I can look into that, Bazam. Let me look at Masahiro Tanaka today. I think that Masahiro Tanaka today is the perfect example of what I'm talking about for a small slate. I think that Masahiro Tanaka is one of the best plays anytime he pitches, but he's never better than a GPP play. If you've watched Masahiro Tanaka pitch for as long as he's been in the major leagues, you have seen someone with nasty stuff. Oh, it is a pleasure. And I hate the Yankees. It is a pleasure to watch that dude pitch. Oh, that's weird. We're getting some stuff from Sacha Baron Cohen here. That is really funny. That is a copy paste from, I can't remember what it's called, The General. That is really funny. I have no idea how to do that. So how do I do that? I don't know how to do that. Remove, is that right? No, that just removes the thing. So if I do that now, if it's put user in timeout, okay. I put him in timeout because as much as I think that movie is hilarious, that's not what we're here for. So let me get back to it. Oh, and the Cleveland lineup just came out, so I can talk about that afterwards. Because that's the whole point. I want to talk about how the lineup changes. When I do these 4 p.m. ones, it's going to be a Q&A. But I think that it's really important to understand how lineup changes can affect, or projected lineup changes can affect, how you view a stack or how you view a pitcher. As of right now, we really haven't had anything too substantial. Tony Kemp playing instead of Tyler White isn't going to blow anyone's socks off. Aaron Alther playing instead of Roman Quinn isn't going to knock anyone's socks off. But I think that, when you have things trickling in like this, like for example, if Lindor was out today, if Jose Ramirez wasn't starting today, you would want Cole even more. So as much as you like Cole, if you had Nola at X% and Cole at Y%, you might want to switch those because the lineup that comes out is a lot weaker. And one of the things we see a lot of times, apart from Sundays, which is like the rest day, is when a team is going against an ace, they use that as an opportunity to rest their superstars. So it's very imperative, especially when there is a day where there are a bunch of really exceptional pitchers, to look at those lineups and to make sure. But again, I apologize. I keep going into tangents when I really want to make this point about Tanaka. Tanaka is a fantastic pitcher. I apologize if you heard that. That was my stomach. Like I said, I have stomach problems. That was really loud. That was really loud. Sorry. Tanaka is a fantastic pitcher. Tanaka can throw a no-hitter any game. He rarely has the kind of stuff where everything works, but he's fantastic. The thing with Tanaka is he's a reverse splits pitcher. So when you are looking at opposing lineups, you want to look for anyone who is a right-hander with reverse splits, because a right-handed pitcher showing reverse splits, their kryptonite is a right-handed batter showing reverse splits. So right now, if you look at the Angels projected lineup, you have three batters with reverse splits. Tommy La Stella, who's a lefty, so that's better for Tanaka. You have Brian Goodwin, who is a lefty, so that's better for Tanaka because that means both of those guys are better against lefties. And then you have this guy, and I might be pronouncing this wrong, Mike Trout. Mike Trout is, and if you read my article, you'll see this. Mike Trout is an amazing hitter. No one is going to ever tell you don't play Mike Trout because they would be idiots. Mike Trout. They would be idiots in doing so unless it's a game theory thing. And I've talked about that in great detail before. The fade Mike Trout every day game theory strategy. But the point of the analysis that I gave in my article today is that Mike Trout, for as good as he is against lefties, he is so much better against righties. So you have a reverse splits pitcher going against the best hitter in the game, who's also a reverse splits righty. That means that you can play Masahiro Tanaka today and Mike Trout. There are not going to be a lot of people that do that. That is going to separate you from a significant percentage of the field. And while I don't think that Tanaka will have the highest score today, when it's all said and done, you cannot argue with good conscience that there is a 0% chance that Tanaka has the highest score today. Because if you think that, Pujols and Goodwin and Lucroy and La Stella and Cozart are going to give him any problems, you are fooling yourself. So it is possible that Tanaka could give up 2 home runs to Mike Trout this game and shut the rest of the Angels down, get his 10 strikeouts, his 6 or 7 innings, and wind up with 30-something DKP. It's certainly possible. Thank you very much, Nate. I appreciate it. It's certainly possible. So I think that if you're looking at smaller slates and you're looking at game theory and you're looking at a way to separate yourself from the field, one of the sneakiest things you can do today, they are a team with a low strikeout percentage, but Tanaka's high strikeout percentage and the stuff that he has overrides that. So for example, if you had a Garrett Cole going against the Braves, I would still take Garrett Cole striking out 10, even though the Braves aren't going to strike out very much. Tanaka's strikeout stuff is that good. And the Angels, if you look at the litany of pitchers they've been going against, haven't been going against exactly, the creme de la creme in terms of strikeout pitchers. So this early in the season, it's very hard to take that kind of analysis. It's still really, really early. You'll have a team like the Mets who are going to strike out a ton this year. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the Mets aren't going to strike out a ton, because they are. But the Mets strikeout numbers are slightly inflated now by the fact that they've started the season out against a high caliber of strikeout pitcher. That is going to regress to a mean eventually. I would say within a few weeks, when the Mets start playing worse teams, and when the worst teams in bad divisions start playing better teams with good pitches, we see those numbers kind of regress to one another. And while the Lakers, Oh, it's one of those days sometimes. Well, I see LA sometimes and my brain just skips. While the Angels um, are not a terrible team, I think that there are people like Cole Calhoun who have an incredible hard hit rate and just has no luck with BABIP. It's going to definitely balance itself out. You're going to see people like La Stella and Cozart. Lucroy is going to strike out a lot more. Uh, that's going to balance itself out. So give me a Tanaka over the Angels, but give me a Trout over Tanaka. So again, when you're looking to separate yourself in a GPP like this, that is the kind of play that you are going to want. You're going to want to play Tanaka and Trout because there is every chance that Tanaka is one of the highest scoring pitchers. And as of right now, he is like 10-ish% owned, give or take. He is the lowest owned of all of the ace priced pitchers. And you can not only get the lowest priced of the ace pitchers, but you can separate yourself even further from playing a batter against him. So let's move on now to the Indians and the Astros. I would say that the lineups matter here, but let's be honest, it's really tough sledding here if you're any one of them. So let's see. I had Lindor, Martin, Ramirez, Santana, Cargo, Kipnis. So I'm right there. Then it's Bowers and Roberto Perez switching. And then instead of Tyler Naquin, it is Greg Allen. So that is, again, that's not enough of a difference that I'm going to give a significant boost to Cole on the spot. But again, Cole is probably the best pitcher on this slate. And that's, I'm not just saying that because I picked him to win the Cy Young this year. Yes, picking the players. If you pick a player that hits 2 home runs, you did a good job today, kid. So those are 2 pitchers that you can play 100%. I think that given obviously the strength of the Astros lineup, Bauer is going to be significantly lower owned, and he has just as much upside as anyone. The Astros, again, are one of the lowest strikeout teams too. This is going to be a tough road. This is going to be one of the hardest, if not the hardest matchup that Bauer has throughout the year is going against the Astros. But at the same time, Bauer is awesome. And he's shown that he could give up 3 home runs, and that's the only 3 hits he gives up, and he strikes out 12, and he still gets you 25 DKP. I would still, no, that's a great, picking Greinke today was a great strategy. I really loved Greinke today, especially against the Pirates. I thought Tyone would do better, but Greinke was, if I had played that smaller slate, Greinke would have been the one lock I had. The question is coming in now from Joker. Is rain good for pitchers, neutral, or actually bad? This is a really good question because it really does matter what the forecast is. If it rains during the game, but the game is going to play, that is great for pitchers. D-backs don't K yet. I don't think that they're necessarily a super low strikeout team if you go up and down that lineup. And I could get to that later, but I don't think I'm going to have time because I do want to get into this. If you're going to have a game where it is lightly raining throughout the game, that is a slight boost to the pitcher, but the issue you have is that humidity, the higher the humidity, the further the ball travels. And most of baseball is going to be played in the heat. So you're going to have high heat and high humidity with a light rain. That's actually a pretty good bump to the batters. The ball isn't going to get hit by enough raindrops to stop it when it's traveling at 115 miles an hour in high heat and high humidity. So I think that people have a tendency to overrate a pitcher when it's raining, but that is only valid if it's really cool. So, if it's like San Francisco and it's raining and it's 60 degrees, what did Twain say? The coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco. If it's, raining in San Francisco that night, you would give a slight bump to the pitcher, a slight boost to the pitcher and a slight bump to the batters. But if it is, 85 and you're getting some rain showers, it's going to be 100% humidity because it's raining and it's going to be hot. So I think the batters are going to go underrated there. I also think that you have the added risk of the rain causing a delay. If rain is good, rain is good if the weather is like it is right now. If it is like 50 degrees and raining and you're playing through it, it is a boost to the pitcher. Once we get into July and August and they're playing through, again, 85-degree weather, it is going to be a slight boost to the batter. It's not going to be enough that you're going to, say, oh, it's lightly raining, I'm going to lock someone in. But it is something that you can use as a tiebreaker, especially in conjunction with ownership, because the ownership is going to be lower on those. But I also want to point out that if you have a pitcher in a game that is raining, if there are thunderstorms forecast or if the rain has the chance to strengthen, there is a chance that they go into a rain delay, at which point playing a pitcher there is going to kill you. Because generally, if the rain delay goes over 30, 40 minutes, that pitcher is not coming back. So you are going to have less of a ceiling from a pitcher in a rain game inherently because there is going to be risk of a delay coming. Meanwhile, bats can sit there for an hour and a half and then they come back and they hit. So bats don't really face a decrease for the rain in that way. And they do get a slight increase when the temperature goes up. So that is a fantastic question. That's a good strategy. Yeah, I mean, that's the way to do this. If you have someone that you really like and you have a feeling that they are not going to be owned in a certain contest or against a certain field, then do yourself a favor and try to get over. You might be wrong, but there's a reason that people will always tell you to trust your gut. If you have done the research and you have read the right people, it is certainly, excuse me. Ooh, the stomach problems. I'm so sorry, folks. That hurts a lot. If there are people that you really like a Greinke and an all day, that people aren't going to play the all day and play Greinke. I think that, hold on. Oh, you know what? Maybe I can just turn off the sound here. Okay, there we go. So that should do that. Okay. Yeah, that is Kyle. His projections are fantastic. We have been working on those for a month. He is in charge of making sure they're up to date and the math behind all of them and everything else. But, we have worked tirelessly on the most important stats and how to weigh everything and what that means for every batter and pitcher. We are working, we have worked, where you bat in terms of how that affects you. We found a study that showed a specific percentage. Like if you are in the first hole, you are 22% more likely to get an at bat than if you bat in the 9 hole, or you're 22% more likely to get an extra at bat. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but we've done the research and we did the study. So we put all the math there. We are getting FanDuel up and running. The projections for them should be up hopefully within a day or so. Yeah, we go into advanced stats, everything. All that stuff is very important to me. I try to make sure that my analysis is there for people who are starting out because it's very important. Everyone starts out somewhere, and there are a lot of people who jump really far into advanced stats, and that can wind up hurting people who are trying to get going. Let me see if I can find you the exact definition of XHR, because I don't like to wing it when it comes to advanced stats. Advanced stats are something that are very specific. Okay. XHR is, quote, the expected number, excuse me, the expected number of home runs allowed or hit based on the park factors and the distribution of batted balls. So that's basically how many. Do your projectors factor in ERA? I don't believe they factor in ERA because we factor in all of the counting stats and then determine from there, what is valuable and what isn't. So we don't like use ERA and say, I think this person is going to have like a 3.3 ERA today, because that's kind of useless. I definitely push more towards, the XFIP, the XFIP minus, and all that other stuff when we're doing the projections. But it looks at all of those factors. It looks at not ERA, but it looks at the runs, the earned runs, the I can't remember the defensive stat, but it looks at defense. We have bullpen factors that are going to go in there based on how many at bats people are supposed to get against bullpens, and then that is all going to be based on how the pitcher has been doing. We have weighted. We have it weighted a small percentage from last year and then a percentage from this year, and then that decreases every day. So we have it so that, at a certain point, it's how much this season is valued is going to switch into the most important. And, we have this whole thing set up. WHIP is very, very important. We use, I think it's 5% for 2017, unless there's an injury, then then we looked past, we looked previous to that. They're always mitigating factors. I think it's 5% for 2017, and then 2018 is decreasing, and 2019 is becoming more relevant by the day. And then we have it set so there is a threshold. So if you only got an X amount of innings pitched or an X amount of at bats last year, then it's not going to be weighted as much as someone who's had 500 at bats and shown themselves. But yeah, the projections are using 3 years essentially, because it's 2017, 2018, again, unless there's an injury or other mitigating circumstances. And then we up to date it every day with all the current stats, and then work around with that. And that includes, pitches per inning. That's my favorite thing. I like that, we have the pitches per inning, the pitches per batter factored in there in order to get how long we think every pitcher is going to go, how many pitches we expect them to do against certain batters. Like we went in really deep to get everything. So as of right now, I'm going to check if any other lineups have come out. As of right now, they haven't. So all of the analysis that I gave before on everybody else stands. So what I would like to do, I want to do this for 7 more minutes. Oh, it's 56. Okay. I started 3 minutes late because of this. So I got like 4 or 5 minutes left. I know a lot of people start doing this streaming stuff at 5, and I want to let y'all do that. I'll still be around for questions, but if y'all have any other questions right now, please feel free to ask. I will answer anything about this slate as well. So again, to sum up my strategy for tonight, I am going to play, or as of right now, I like both pitchers in the Philly-Miami game. So Nola and Smith are 2 of my favorites given the price. And then I want to do a 5-2-1 stack with 5 people from the Red Sox, 2 people from the Yankees, and then a one-off that will hopefully be Mike Trout, depending on if I can afford him. Other than that, if there is nobody else, I will wait for a minute because I don't know. My favorite one-offs for today, see, that's so Mike Trout is the best because, again, I went into the other than Trout. This is where you can look at the individual. I will look through the individual games for you. Yeah, that's fine. Let's see. So Nola, I'm not going to play any one-offs from the Marlins. Caleb Smith is an extreme normal splits guy. So if there's an extreme normal splits right-hander, then I wouldn't mind him as a one-off if he's been doing particularly well recently. Unfortunately, McCutchen is the only one there. I think Sean Rodriguez at 2,900, if you know anything about Sean Rodriguez, yes, LeMahieu is absolutely one of my favorite one-offs, and I'll get there. Sean Rodriguez is dual eligible, first base, second base. He's only 2,900. And if you followed Sean Rodriguez's career, he is someone that teams kept on the bench just to hit against lefties. So while I don't normally suggest him and while I don't love him, I think that Sean Rodriguez at 2,900, if you want to do like two ace pitchers and you want to get a cheap one off, Sean Rodriguez, you could do a lot worse than that, especially going against a lefty. I think that any of the Red Sox you can do as a one-off. That goes without saying. Anytime I recommend a stack, you could do them all as the one-off, but I particularly like JD Martinez today. Okay. Have a good one, Joker. On the Tigers with Porcello, I think that Nico Goodrum is a fantastic one-off. Porcello is a normal splits guy, and he has a problem with lefty batters. And Nico Goodrum, believe it or not, is the only functional lefty that they're going to have, given that Candelario is significantly better as a right-handed batter. And then if we go to Cleveland, Houston, see, the question here is, do you want to be sneaky and try to take an Astros bat? And I really don't. I think that you can always take anybody from the Astros, but I just think there are people priced along the same lines that have a better chance in the one-off category. So if you're going to save a lineup spot for one person, I would do it from another team. The Yankees I have as one of the stacking teams, but LeMahieu is, excuse me. Can you define smart randomness, please? And then I will. That is not a term I'm familiar with, although I'm sure I know what you're talking about in terms of what I've thought about. No, I'm not playing. I don't want to play anybody from Cleveland or Houston. I think those pitchers are just, they're too high strikeout. And what you're doing is you're hunting for home runs because you're not going to get someone who's going to be able to, get a double and get a guy in, or get a double and get a run scored. They're not going to have those extra points coming in. You're just hoping that they're able to get a home run or rack up multiple hits, which is, again, against someone like that, it's a harder task, obviously. I think LeMahieu is just way too cheap. 3,300 against Cahill. He should be one of the highest owned players today. If he's not, that's crazy. I also think that Michael Ford at 3,500 is really tricky. It's really sneaky, excuse me. I think that you could do a lot worse. I think Sean Rodriguez for 2,900, as good as he is against lefties, is a really sneaky play. But don't ignore Mike Ford too at first base for 3,500. Mike Ford is really good, or he should be really good if you look at his minor league profile. Should be really good against righties. He's good enough that they intentionally walked him, I think, twice the other game, and people don't really know who he is. So if you're getting 2 intentional walks because you're doing that well against righties, or you have that much pedigree to do that well against righties, I think that he's someone that is going to go overlooked and underowned, especially as a one-off play. The Angels, I talked about Trout. And then the Rangers, I think that I want to see who the Rangers play. I don't really love anyone from the Rangers here by any stretch of the imagination. I think Forsythe is one of those people like Rodriguez who people kept around just so that he could hit against lefties. So Forsythe, projected to be in the 5-hole, is fantastic. The one issue that I have is if we're talking favorite one-offs, Gonzalez doesn't show any splits. So I would have no problem if Gallo winds up getting into this lineup with having him as the predominant lineup, predominant one-off from the Texas Rangers, well over Forsythe, because no one's going to do that. People don't play lefty on lefty. And then I talked a lot about Taylor Hearn. He's a great strikeout pitcher. He walks a ton of people, but he doesn't give up a lot of hits and home runs. So I think he's a really sneaky GPP play. If you're going to go anywhere here, I wouldn't mind taking like an Encarnacion. But I think that it's much more likely that he's going to walk someone like an Encarnacion, and it's going to be someone like a Ryan Healy that gets you the home run today, because at that point he's not going to have a choice but to try to throw the ball down the plate, or even Tim Beckham. Take a Tim Beckham. If he has to pitch around Santana, Encarnacion, Vogelback, and Bruce, which is certainly a good possibility, then he's not going to have a chance to pitch around Tim Beckham. So you're going to have someone that might walk in a run, might hit a double and score 2 or 3, or something like that. So I hope that answered your question. Bazam, I'm still waiting for your definition of smart randomness. Let me see if I can Google that, and then I can give you an answer before I go. I do not see any sort of definition. Let's see. Oh, it's a statistics term? Okay. So I know randomness is a statistics term. I don't know how smart randomness differentiates itself from regular randomness. So I will get into that. I will try to look that up. I have a statistics textbook somewhere in my house from back in the day. I never throw any of that stuff out. So I'll take a look at that and see if I can find anything to define smart randomness. And then I will get back to you, hopefully, for the next video. All right. So thank you, everyone, for joining me today for this hour. I was surprised we got over 20 people. That made me really happy. That was really, really fantastic. I think that Tanaka, honestly, I think that Tanaka is going to be the lowest owned, highest ceiling guy that you're going to have on either slate. And I think that he can strike out enough people that it's going to be an easy GPP play to get leverage over the field, given his ceiling, Eduardo. So I would say that if you are really looking to separate yourself from ownership, then Tanaka is going to be the one to do it. So thank you very much, everyone. I really do appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much for all the compliments. I love you all. I really do. It really, I can't tell you enough how much it means to me to have any support whatsoever, much less the support of some really, really fantastic people. Best of luck tonight. I'm on Flick, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Reddit if you have any questions, and I'll definitely, assuming everything goes to plan and my son's not sick or something, I'll be doing this again next Thursday at the same time. Otherwise, if you're a paid member, I do this around noon every day. I could do it later, but my son gets home at like 2 or 3, and at that point I am in full stay-at-home dad mode. So I love all of you. Thank you so much again. Have a beautiful day. Best of luck, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye.